A very good afternoon to everyone present here. I am Ms. Aishwarya Acharya, Research Intern at the Institute of Chinese Studies, New Delhi, and the MC for today. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all here to another Wednesday seminar. Today's seminar is on changing profiles, leadership in the Tibet Autonomous Region in the new era. Today's talk will explore the leadership changes in the Tibet Autonomous Region since 2012, when Xi Jinping became the General Secretary of the Communist Party of China. It will examine cadre management and appointments as a component of China's Tibet policy based on an analysis of the career trajectories, biographical data, and other sources. The leadership hierarchy at different levels will be analyzed, and pertinent questions related to the profile of TAR cadres, ethnic composition patterns, and role of aid in ethnic representation of leadership in Tibet will be addressed, thereby providing insights into China's Tibet policy. In crux, the talk aims to understand how the Chinese state operates in Tibet using both coercive and consensual methods. To discuss this nuanced topic, we today have with us Dr. Devendra Kumar, who is an Associate Fellow at the Center of Excellence for Himalayan Studies, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Shiv Nadar Institution of Eminence. His doctoral thesis at the University of Hyderabad examined the linkages between domestic policies and China's approaches to international order in the post-1978 period. His research interests include China and the international order, party ideology and party legitimacy of the CPC, territorial sovereignty questions in China's peripheries, and political economy with particular focus on western regions of China. Today's session will be chaired by Dr. Bhim B. Subba, who is an assistant professor at the Department of Political Science, University of Hyderabad, and a visiting associate fellow at the Institute of Chinese Studies, New Delhi. His research interests are Chinese domestic politics and Communist Party leadership, comparative politics, and international affairs. His articles have appeared in several journals, edited books, review blogs, and other online platforms. Before I hand over the proceedings to the chair, I would like to ask all the participants to follow some housekeeping rules. All the participants must be muted during the presentation. Questions can be posted in the chat box during the event, or you can raise your hand during the interactive session. After the presentation, you will be called upon to unmute yourself and ask questions. Please mention your full name and affiliation before asking the question. Please keep the questions crisp and short so that maximum questions can be addressed. I would now hand over the floor to the chair to take the proceedings forward. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone, to the Wednesday seminar today. And thank you, Aishwarya, for a very generous and long introduction, which need not be. However, nevertheless, today's presentation by Dr. Devendra Kumar on changing profiles, leadership in Tibet, TAR in the new era. So I think this topic is very important as of today, that as a student of comparative politics, China, and international affairs, one has to understand this. And no doubt today I see many number of participants have already joined, and that shows that how important this is about the topic that we are discussing today. And however, just to mention just to give a very short introduction on Devendra. Devendra was I was one of his teachers, advisors in University of Hyderabad. He knows me much better than I know him. So it was good to interact with him during his course of his PhD thesis, writing, and as well as advising for us. So as of today, he has joined Shiv Nadar Center for Excellence on Himalayan Studies, which is in Shiv Nadar University, and a very profound institution that has come to play in policy making process in future. So having today, Devendra, you have 35 minutes, and I would urge you to finish your presentation in 35 minutes, and we can carry forward to discussions and question answers in a much lengthier manner. Yeah. So welcome, Devendra, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, am I audible? Yes, sir, you're audible.
So, good afternoon to everyone. Thanks, Dr. Beam and Aishwarya, and thanks to ICS for the opportunity to share some of the findings about the ongoing research work that I'm doing as part of my work on Aid to Tibet program. So I started uh, looking at the leadership as part of Tibet Aid to Tibet program and the cadre movement as part of that program. So as part of this presentation, I look at some of these questions, which are: what are the general profiles of cadres in Tibet Autonomous Region? Then what are the patterns of changing ethnic composition of cadres since 2012, when Xi Jinping came to power? And then what role does Aid to Tibet program play in ethnic representation of leadership in the region? And finally, what do the cadre management and patterns of appointments reveal about China's Tibet policy during Xi Jinping's period? Now, to answer these questions, I have looked at cadre appointment and management at prefecture and provincial levels in TAR for both Han ethnic cadres and Tibetan cadres, and Tibetan cadres, including from TAR as well as non-TAR areas in national level party institutions like Central Committee, NPC, the National People's Congress, and CPPCC. And at the all levels, I have looked at the ethnic composition of leadership in people's congresses, government, with key positions in the government like mayor, deputy mayor, then CPCC committees and CPC party committees and party standing committees. And roughly, I have looked at the leadership from 2010-11, when the last commit first the committees were elected before Xi Jinping came to power, till very recently, when the process which started from the county level to national level, it started in 2020, early 2021, and ended in 2022 December till the provincial level, and then at the national level in 2022 and early 2023. So basically, I have looked at biographical details and career trajectories of cadres in these institutions, and then media reports, official statements, and reports to. Now, particularly, I look at prefecture levels, which is very important because first of all, we do have many reports and media stories, commentaries about national level and provincial level leadership. So second thing is that I started looking at the leadership when I was looking at the Aid to Tibet program and the cadre movement as part of that program. So another thing is that prefecture level bureaucracies function as conduit between the lower level, that is county level and downwards, and higher levels, province and upwards, in the party state hierarchy. In addition to that, in recent years, we have seen that there is a lot of emphasis on administrative changes in Tibet Autonomous Region at prefecture level. So, for example, we have seen that 6 out of 7 prefecture level unit entities have been now upgraded to prefecture level cities, which has led to a substantial increase in bureaucracy and state capacity, which is part of the broader state building project in the peripheries, in the borderlands of China. In addition to that, there's also a pattern that, those cadres who are appointed or parachuted into TAR are usually appointed at the prefecture level. And then when we look at the patterns of changes in the ethnic composition of leadership, the changes happening at this level is quite significant, which also reflects what's happening at the changes we are now seeing at the provincial level. And then finally, it is an important stage in cadre promotion at higher level for a typical cadre in this. So now to just snapshot of what the administrative hierarchy. So there are 7 prefecture level entities, 1 prefecture, and 6 prefecture level cities. And if we look at the status within the party hierarchy, we see that county level onwards, the entities have legislative power as well as party committees and People's Congress committees. And from county level onwards, they are elected indirectly by the immediate lower level. So now, when I'm looking at these issues, the ethnic composition of leadership, there has to be some standard which we can look at. This is how it should be, right? So an ideal situation would be when leadership composition reflects the population share. And as of 2021 census, Tibetan ethnic population of TAR is around 86%. Han population is around 12%, and the remaining is 1.5 or around 2%. So now let us begin with the party committees and provincial party committees and standing committees at the provincial level. So when we look at the ethnic composition of leadership at this level, we see 2-3 trends. One is that in the standing committees, we see is gradual change in favor of Han ethnic cadres. So the number of ethnic cadres, Tibetan ethnic cadres remain same or more or less same, while the Han ethnic cadres numbers are increasing. Second thing is that the numerically smaller communities like Mompa, Tangpa, or Laoba, or Hui, or others do not get representation in standing committee, while they do get representation in the party committees, which is larger than the. So in the party committees, we see similar trend, but there is a more significant trend in favor of Han ethnic cadres. So from 2011 to 16, which is 8th party committee, to 10th party now in 2021, we see that the number of Tibetan ethnic cadres in the party committees is constantly decreasing, while the Han ethnic cadres are increasing. At the same time, we see that in around 2008 or after that, we have seen the representation of smaller communities like Mompa, Laoba in the party committees, which is in line with the party's emphasis on defining Tibet as multi-ethnic, province rather than being dominated by Tibetans, as well as parties focus on smaller communities, numerically smaller communities in the border areas along with India-Tibet border. This is about full members of party committees, while alternate members of the party committees at provincial level remains more or less same, with Tibetan members of the party, alternate members of party committee being around 70 to 80%, and remaining smaller communities. Now coming to People's Congress at the provincial level, we see that there is this trend which is going on, that chair is always the Tibetan, but now the Han ethnic number of Han ethnic cadres is increasing both in the standing committee as well as the People's Congress committee, which is larger than, which is the standing committee is part of. So this is one. Another thing is that the in continuation or in alignment with what's happening in the party committee, the numerically smaller communities are getting represented in the People's Congress committee at the provincial level. And there are 2 communities which must be mentioned. One is Tangpa, which is one of the branches of Mishmi tribes in Arunachal Pradesh, which had representation first time in 2018. In the 11th committee, and then we have and then Mompa, which was first time they got representation in 2013 in 10th committee. And here too we see that the number of Tibetan ethnic cadres are decreasing while the Han cadres are increasing. Now If we look at why it is happening, we have to look at what's happening in the prefecture level committees. And if we look at the one measure is that when we look at the deputies who are being elected to the this People's Congress, and which elect this committee and standing committee, we see that the number of Tibetan deputies to People's Congress at TAR has decreased by more than 100 in absolute numbers, or in percentage numbers. If we talk about then in 2013 it was around 80% deputies were Tibetans, while right now there are around 55% deputies are Tibetan cadres, which means that more and more Han cadres are being elected to the as deputies, which reflects that more and more Han cadres are getting appointed at lower levels, who are then get elected to People's Congress. Now, as I said, I'll just focus more on prefecture level committees and the party committees and other institutions. Now, I haven't mentioned it here about provincial level CPCC, but in just one line, in CPCC, there is a different trend, because the nature of institution is also different. And in addition to that, there's also continuity, in the sense that there are more at the Tibetan cadres in majority part of provincial level as well as prefecture level CPCC committees. But at the national level also we see the same trend, which I'll talk about in the end of the presentation. Now, if we look at the prefecture level committees of party and standing committees, there is what I have mentioned is there's a drastic change, because if we look at the standing committees of prefectures in 2006 to 11 period, it was opposite of what we have now. So ethnic composition of standing committees at prefecture levels now is this, that the Han ethnic cadres are around 60 to 85% of committees, which is opposite to what was the situation in 2006 to 11. And this has gradually changed, and it's because it's a really drastic change. So, and that is these changes are reflected now, gradually are reflected in the changes which is happening at the provincial level. Now, in the government positions at the prefecture levels, we see that there are similar trends. The changes of ethnic composition of leadership at prefecture level at all these institutions is drastic in comparison to provincial level. So we have seen the party committees. Now, if we look at the deputy mayor position at prefecture levels, there are around 45 cadres who are designated as deputy mayor or executive deputy mayor, out of which 17 are Tibetan and 20 are Han. Now, at this level, if we see 28 Han cadres who are deputy mayors, 15 cadres are from A to Tibet cadre as of June 2023. Now, it is not unusual that the A to Tibet cadres are being appointed at this level, which is happening from the early 1990s when the program, the current structure of the program took shape. But if we look at from 2010 onwards, the greater number of A to Tibet cadres as well as Han cadres are being appointed at deputy mayor level. So apart from work experience in TAR and political loyalty, the A to Tibet is, A to Tibet as well as the cadres who are parachuted into Tibet at this level and other positions at the prefecture level are major factor in terms of how the ethnic composition is changing. So overall, if we look at the situation, really had changed drastically at this level. Now, when we look at other positions, for example, mayor position should be, according to constitutional provisions, mayor should be in an ethnic autonomous region, mayor should be from the ethnic communities. However, this is now changing in last 10 to 12 years. And the appointment of Wang Qiang, who himself is a aide to Tibet cadre, as the mayor of Lhasa, is now reflects that this trend is also now the appointment of Han cadre, ethnic cadres as mayors are also now taking decisive shape. So in the party secretary level, if we look at the situation now, at present, 5 out of 7 party secretaries in the prefectures are Han, which is reverse to what was the situation in 2010, when the first time the Ningchi and Nangari's party secretary were appointed, Han secretaries were appointed. Now, in recent times, in last 7-8 years, we have seen that this trend of appointing Han ethnic cadres in party secretary position is also taking. Now, it's sure that in Chamdo and Lokha, the 2 successive party secretaries, Han ethnic cadres have taken as party secretaries. So this seems like this trend will go on. Now, at the deputy secretary level, traditionally, if we look at from even early 2000s, one of the deputy secretaries, party secretaries, was Tibetan or other ethnic cadre, and this is continuing. But what is changing is that more and more number of deputy party secretaries are being appointed at this level, and one big factor is aid to Tibet. And I'll just, in the next section, I'll talk about how many how many cadres have been appointed at this level. So now, if we look at key factors, which are, if we look at their career trajectories and biographies, 3 or 4 factors emerge. One is political loyalty, which is obviously is throughout China. Another is experience in working in Tibet, Tar or other non-Tar Tibetan areas. Then you have aid to Tibet, and then in recently we have special skills, which I'll just come in the next slide. So in aid to Tibet program, we have 3 types of movement from advanced provinces to the provinces which are under pairing up program. So government to government, they usually transfer payments and special funds. Then at firm level, they establish industrial park, invest, etc. And at the personnel level, each province organize enterprise, SOE, let's say, or central government department or organ, they send a batch of personnel for 1 to 3 years period, with one being a leader and usually 1 or 2 deputy leaders. And these leaders are managed by the concerned organization department of province or a centrally administered city or central organization, central level organ, and the organization department of TR and the central organization. And so these cadres are, appointed, or let's say selected by the concerned their home organization department, which is sent to the Tibet, which then which is coordinated by the TAR organization department and central level organization. So if we look at the every province which is partnering with Tibet or Xinjiang or other pairing up provinces, they send a batch of people with a leader and deputy leaders and other other people, cadres. So the leader is usually appointed at prefecture level. Obviously, when it depends on what kind of the nature of the project they are undertaking, but when usually the leader is appointed at the prefecture levels or provincial level, or in the departments where these their parent province organ or department is investing. Now, if we look at, it's not like that the aid to Tibet cadres are being appointed now. but the number of A2 Tibet cadres being appointed at prefecture levels, especially at two positions. One is deputy mayor and deputy party secretary. The number of A2 Tibet cadres have increased this level. And usually they stay for 3 years in these positions. So we have a long list of deputy mayors at prefecture levels now. Some of these deputy party secretaries and one mayor, which is Wang Qiang, who is now mayor of Lhasa. So what I want to highlight is that, the A2 Tibet cadres are now represented. I mean, they have their appointments have led to an overwhelming representation of Han ethnic cadres in these positions, which is one of the major factors why in these two particular positions Han ethnic representation has increased. In addition to A2 Tibet program, there are two other factors. Which one is experiences in TAR, which is usually for everyone. But in recent times, we have seen that there are also cadres with special skills are being appointed, and these two key skills are expertise in finance and economics, or science and technology related fields. And some of the cadres I have just mentioned, who are at the prefecture level or provincial level, who have recently been appointed with these skills, it indicates that also the focus of the party, the policies. There is a lot of focus in the agriculture, industries, urban construction, and geology, and transport and other infrastructure. So it seems like these cadres are being appointed to oversee some of these projects. And we see that, and most of these cadres are in their 40s and 50s, which means that they'll be here for 10 to 15 years at least in Tibet, if they are appointed later on at central level, is different thing. So some of these cadres I can mention is Ranwei, who is now a member of the standing committee of TAR committee, as well as an executive vice chairman of TAR, who has a PhD in thermal engineering from Tsinghua University. And previously he was deputy manager at Tathang Corporation, which is one of the electricity companies in China. And in addition to that, now this is about prefecture level. So one point which comes out is that the changes at the prefecture levels are reflecting in the higher level, and changes in ethnic composition of leadership at prefecture level is decisive and really drastic if we compare it the pre-2010-11 period. Now coming to these central level national level institutions, in the central committee we see that there is slight change with trends of declining clout and number, as well as number of ethnic Tibetan ethnic cadres. For example, in 18th party committee, there was 3 Tibetan ethnic cadres were alternate members, and in 20th Party Congress, there are 3 Tibetan cadres who are alternate members, who are Furbu Dondup, who is Party Secretary of Lhasa, Karman Senden, who is Secretary UFWD TAR, and then Sering Thar, who is Deputy Governor of Qinghai. And in 19th Central Committee, we had 2 full members, Chetala, and who is now a member of the 14th National Committee of CPPCC, and Lobsang Jamchun, who is chairman of the Standing Committee of People's Congress of TAR, and 2 alternate members, Norbu Dondup and Yan Chinhai. And in 18th Party Congress, there was 1 full member and 4 alternate members. So if we look at the trend, the number of cadres as alternate or full members is decreasing, as well as their clout is decreasing, because there's no full member. But overall, it's not drastic change in that sense. Similarly, in National People's Congress, the Tibetan representation remains constant. For example, in the 14th NPC, which was elected in March 2023, it has 33 Tibetan cadres and two cadres as part of standing committee of the NPC. And similarly, in 13th NPC, there were 33 representatives, 3 members as part of a standing committee. In 12th also, there were 32 Tibetan representatives and 2 members of a standing committee. So in this institution, it is more or less same, it's constant. Now coming to the CPCC, here too we see that there is a continuity in terms, both in terms of number of ethnic cadres who are part of this, as well as the who have been elected. So if we take all these 3 institutions at national level, we see that there is very minimum circulation, elite circulation, in the sense that very few new people are being appointed to these 3 institutions. And in that sense, it reflects, what I have, what I call, when we look at the cadre management and appointment. So it is part of broader Tibet policy, which has both co-option as well as coercive measures. So CPCC membership represent the co-opting side dimension of the party's Tibet policy. In addition to that, there are also soft or incentivizing measures as part of Tibet policy. For example, we see that there's a lot of emphasis on conservation of culture and heritage, portraying the party state as the champion of culture or Chinese culture, which is Tibetan culture as part of Chinese culture. And there are also not soft coercive measures. For example, in last year, in May, June 2022, the TAR UFWD started a campaign called 3 Consciousness campaign, which was aimed primarily at the monks and nuns in the monasteries, aiming at creating awareness about the Chinese identity, Chunghua Minzu, then legal awareness in the sense that the state laws are superior than the religious laws and norms, and political consciousness. So this represents, and this campaign is now going on in full swing because in the first phase from June 2022 to December 2022, it was a pilot program. From November, December 22 onwards, it is now being implemented, and we see a lot of activities happening under the tutelage of UFWD. Now, if we put it into the context, broader context, we see that all this is being done to bring religious matters and religious life under the party's organizational and ideological fold. So there are other examples which should be mentioned in this context. One is that party is emphasizing on legalization of reincarnation issue, because it is basically being portrayed as that reincarnation is a legal issue, and as per the 2007 6-7 regulation that living Buddhas would be which actually prescribes the procedures to recognize living Buddhas and reincarnation of all the monks, including Dalai Lama, Panchen Lama, etc. And in addition to that, we also see that in last few years, especially after 2008 protest, we see that most of monasteries now have monastery management committees, which is basically function as a party committee of this monastery, and they are the one who manage the finances of monasteries, as well as to ensure that whatever is happening within the monastery is according to what party wants. So this, if we look at the membership of CPCC and CPCC specifically, we see what Cloud RP had mentioned once about that party is now during Xi Jinping's period focusing on spiritualization of politics. Even despite being an atheist party, it is now keenly following religion and trying to manage and co-opt some of these manners. So, for example, in the national level, 14th national level CPCC, there are 11 or 12 the current abodes of monasteries, and most of these monasteries have, or it usually portrayed in the party media, that they have role in recognition of Dalai Lama or Panchen Lama. So the overall in these three institutions, there is less or minimum elite circulation in terms of new members being appointed. Now, in conclusion, if I summarize the arguments, what we get about looking at these numbers is that the representation of ethnic Tibetan cadres is declining. However, this changes in the or decline in the representation of ethnic cadres is not uniform across party state hierarchy, while at the national level in CC, NPC or CPCC, it is constant. The changes are happening at provincial and particularly at prefecture levels. And I also want to mention that, this is part of continuity, because the Tibetan cadres usually don't get appointments in departments other than state administration for religious affairs, ethnic affairs, or many of these cadres are appointed for short periods at lower levels in central level ministries like finance ministry, NDRC, or some of these banks, and they come back to serve in the prefecture and county levels. However, overall Tibetan cadres do not get appointments in bureaucracies other than the ones which are managing Tibet affairs. And so at provincial level and national, there is no significant circulation of leaders. However, overall the changes are shifting towards the lower representation of Tibetan ethnic cadres, and the changes which are happening at the provincial level are reflective of what the changes which are happening at the prefecture levels. Now, in the conclusion, this exercise of looking at the numbers, how many cadres have been appointed where, and how this raises one question: is there a strategy behind, or well thought out strategy behind appointment of cadres? So we have, even if we look at the numbers, there seems to be a well thought out plan, but there are also other indications that there is long-term planning behind such a strategy. One is that the leaders usually mention about how the appointment of work experience in Tibet will test the grit and commitment of the cadres. In addition to that, we also see a lot of indications of what they want from cadres who work in Tibet, or their motivations from the propaganda material or advertising materials around the talent programs, which usually they do road shows and programs. Now, in addition to that, we, as I mentioned in the beginning, the administrative changes in the TAR region is happening at really, in last few years, it's happening quite fast pace. So we have seen that the most of prefecture level entities have been upgraded to prefecture level cities, and now recently we also see that even county level entities are also being upgraded to cities. So as part of this exercise, what happens is that there is a more bureaucracy, money is, these entities can exercise more power over the money, urban management and other issues, as well as the size of bureaucracy also increases. And then this we should understand as part of the broader efforts to enhance state capabilities and state building processes in the border regions overall. There are some 140 counties where the border enhancement or enrichment program is going on, and it's happening in most of these counties. Now, the patterns, if we look at the patterns of ethnic composition of leadership at prefecture level, if these patterns continue, we might see the similar, composition of leadership at the provincial level also. And if we look at the broader the context, now when the focus is on county level administrative changes, we might also look at the cadre appointment and management at county level to see whether this is what is happening at prefecture level is reflective of what's happening at the county level. Thank you so much. I'll stop here and then
thank you, Devendra, for that splendid sticking to time and that splendid presentation, and especially many takeaways. Like you have really looked into how you are not only tracing from the local to the national, but also you're looking into both ways, from macro to micro, and as well as looking from grassroots to top. Nevertheless, it has been interesting, but I do have some takeaways, and also I would like to, as a chair, before we start the discussion, I would like to really, indulge you with some two, clarifications here. Is that when you are talking about the role of, cadres or being cadre recruited in TAR, so many of the names that you have indicated are men. So what about women cadres, senior cadres there at TAR? Because I see when you compare that to political elites, but if you look into the PLA recruitments in Tibet, you see substantial Tibetan or ethnic minorities, women, represented in the PLA. Yeah? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so see,
that is the first, question, and the second one is with regard to how you say that state making process and state building process. That reminds me of what James Scott talks about, seeing like the state, where he brings in the thesis of administrative ordering of the nature of the nature and the society of the state, and as well as with high ideology of high modernist aspects, like high scientific and technical progress. Because when you see the type of cadres being represented, that aid to Tibet also tries to denote as seeing like the state, what you say that James Scott brings in this aspect. And also at the same time, the third is you have the authoritarian state structure that really helps such high modernist ideology, administrative ordering of the state, and as well as the functioning of the states itself. And also the last one is the pro-state, civil society organization. Today, if we have to talk about civil society organization per se with regard to Tibet, we could see, as you said, co-option of many cultural symbols, groups, monasteries, and also different sects here. So these two aspects that I really want you to really look into. And the third one, if I can ask you, is you said they were Sherpas as a community. Sherpas are also like Highlander people. They are also in Nepal. They are also in Sikkim. They are also definitely in Arunachal aspect. Darjeeling, definitely we have. So are you talking of the same kind of Sherpas, if you could see? And the third and the fourth one is with regard to, you mentioned Mishmis. Now, Mishmis are one of the ethnic communities in Arunachal, but there are two types of Mishmis there. Are you talking about Idu Mishmis, which are towards eastern Arunachal, or central Arunachal? You have kind of a Digaro Mishmis, because the name sound more of a later one. So these you can really think about later, but definitely now we can ask, questions from the floor. If somebody have anything to pose, you can, Ashwara can help me.
Can I just briefly answer? See, about Mishmis, Tangpas basically lives in Chayul County of Shannan or Loka, and they are one of the 4 branches of Mishmis. And about Sherpas, yes, 1 or 2 Sherpa representatives have figured in the last 10 years, which basically, they live near Tingri County in the opposite Nepal. So they are from that particular representative is from Tingri County. And in Tingri County, there are, I mean, near the Mount Everest and other these counties, there are Sherpa population. It's basically near Tibet-Nepal border. And when I mention about state building processes, I mentioned two things. One is when China is focusing on upgrading administrative status of counties or prefecture levels, what is happening? The result is that greater number of bureaucracies. For example, a typical prefecture level city will have 60 to 64 or 65 departments, or general prefecture level will have around 40. So the number of the administrative departments goes high. And in addition to that, prefecture level cities can have more power over revenue, as well as power over the urban management and other things, while the simple prefectures are mostly classified as rurals, which also get less amount as transfer from province and central level. So, and third thing is when the size of bureaucracy and capacity increases, the state's capacity to control and I mean, I don't know what what word should I use except control. So state has more capacity to control and regulate people's lives. That's what if we look at in the broader context, we see we should look at what China is doing in terms of infrastructure, whether it's infrastructure, connectivity, administrative changes, and urbanization and other parts as broader part of the state building in the border regions. And these trends I might this is part of what I'm doing now, and I may have more clear ideas about these things. But if you look at all these 140 counties in China's borders in 9 provinces, we see similar trends, whether it is administrative changes, whether it is infrastructure, whether it is more, having more control and building a state capacity in these regions in general. And about women, yeah, I mean, I have thought about it that there's so less number of women are part of these institutions that I can just say that, women are just less than 10% or so. In fact, in the leading positions, there are hardly any women who are there.
Yeah, thank you. Aishwarya, you would read or are we taking any oral questions?
Sir, we have certain questions in the chat box, so I would start with them.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Rappai Maliakal asks, thank you, Devendra, for picking up this next topic. Please brief little bit about the Aid Tibet program and any details about the cadres who opted to work in Tibet.
Okay, should I answer one by one? In the Tibet Aid to Tibet program, there are 3 components, as I mentioned. One is the direct government to government financial transfer. Other is that the companies and enterprises come and invest and build. And third is the movement of cadre personnel. So typically, the partnering province, advanced partnering province, or centrally administrated cities, or central level organization, or SOEs, when they are investing as part of Aid to Tibet program, they send a team with 1 leader and 1 or 2 deputy leaders, and then many other cadres. So they remain there for 1 to 3 years. And as I have said, if it depends on where they are appointed. Where they are appointed depends upon the nature of projects they are undertaking. So, for example, the provinces like Zhejiang, Guangdong, and others who invest quite a lot, their cadre, the leader of the batch, is usually appointed at the prefecture level or even at the provincial level. And the departments, let's say, if they are investing in agriculture projects, so their leader, the leader of the batch would be appointed in the related department, or mostly in financial departments. And other cadres usually work as team leaders of workers, even at the let's say project sites to county levels and villages even. So I haven't looked at the cadre appointment below the prefecture level. I think that would as part of my project on aid to Tibet. I would definitely I'm looking at those things, patterns of how many cadres have come, what they do, etc., from the lower level to higher level.
Apalamu asks, why do you think no Tibetans have ever been appointed as the party secretary of TAR? What qualities do you think a potential TAR party secretary should possess? Additionally, I would appreciate it if you could elaborate a little more on the reasons for the increasing number of Han being appointed as party secretaries of prefectures in TAR.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, even party secretary of TAR has always been a Han, although their background had changed after 90s. Earlier, it was mostly PLA cadres, PLA officers who functioned as party secretary of TAR. Now we see that, party secretaries have different backgrounds. From Hu Jintao onwards, now Wang Chuncheng. I don't know what qualities they should have, because usually that they practice that they do not, appoint other ethnic minority cadres. There are two. I mean, if we look at the party secretaries being appointed at prefecture levels, two examples we have during last few years. One is Ningxi, and Lokha or Chanan. These two counties, prefectures have had Han cadres successively now, and that's now that has become a trend. So what I gather is that there is a lot of focus on because these counties are located in the strategic, the India-China border, as well as there is a lot of policy focus in these two counties, whether it is the relocation of herders from other parts of Nagchu or other areas, whether it is the administrative upgradation, as I talked about, whether it is construction and infrastructure, agriculture, and other areas. So these counties, I believe that it's because Han ethnic cadres are being appointed in these two counties because there's a lot of policy focus. And if we see, I mean, this is likely that if we look at these two trends, we might see Han ethnic party secretaries in other two counties that are remaining now.
Anand P. Krishnan writes, wonderful presentation, Devendra. Two questions. What about people of mixed ethnic parentage? Are they considered in political as Han or Tibetan or other sections? And second question is, do leaders who come up through the ranks have any special incentives if they have cut their teeth in TAR, Xinjiang, like Xi or Hu Jintao, who was party secretary in TAR?
Okay, first question I do not have much to say about. The second question is that, there is this thing. I have mentioned that, Tibetan ethnic cadres are not generally appointed. There's only one Tibetan ethnic cadre who is from Shantung and a lady who is serving outside Tibetan areas. Except that usually Tibetan ethnic cadres do not get appointed other than these the central level organs which are managing Tibetan affairs. And yes, for Han ethnic cadres, the experience in working in TAR or Xinjiang matters. And we have seen there are a lot of biographies of cadres who I have not looked at in detail, but we have 5 party secretaries from 90 onward, Hu Jintao onwards, who have served at the highest level, and there are many more who have served even as part of aid to Tibet cadres who serve in the higher levels at provincial level, especially if not at the central level. So in many of the provinces which send these cadres to Xinjiang or Tibet, they go back and get promoted directly. And I can give you some examples from Shanghai, Zhejiang, and Liaoning. Yeah.
Prabhat Kumar writes, thanks for a very riveting talk on a less touched topic. Just one small doubt. Has TAR reverted back to the prefecture system? I recall that TAR had planned to upgrade all prefectures to municipality or city level, and several of these were indeed upgraded, beginning with Rikaze Shigatse prefecture about half a decade back.
There's only one prefecture which is remaining. All others have been upgraded to prefecture level cities. And Nari or Nangari is the one which is remaining. I think there is also some talk about being upgraded. Nangari will also should be upgraded in next few years, it seems.
Retired Colonel Virendra Sahai Verma asks, what is the role of local Tibetan monasteries in administration?
Okay, this I do not have concrete answer, but what I can say the other way around. Local administration has control over the monasteries through the monastery management committees, which is usually headed by a Han ethnic cadre. In many of the monasteries, Han ethnic cadre is the head or director, which is usually called director of the monastery management committee. And there's always two or three monks from that monastery who are deputy directors. And so I do not really know about the role of Tibetan monasteries in administration, but the other way around, I can talk about quite a bit. Because in the three consciousness campaign which I talked about, the UFWD cadres at all levels in the province are going to the monasteries, educating these monks and saying that you go to people and tell about these three consciousness, which is basically, I think, part of the larger bringing all aspects of life, religious or cultural, within the fold of parties organization. And also it has to do with what is happening around the issue of reincarnation, Dalai Lama and China's preparation for that. So yes, it does matter, but I don't know the other way around, the role of local Tibetan monasteries.
Manasseh Reddy asks, after listening to you about the changing leadership in the regions like TAR and non-TAR and the religious guarding by state-related committees, how do you look at the changing views of Dalai Lama and others, especially when Dalai Lama says China is changing and approaching him? I see there is a big contrast then, what is in data and what is in happenings.
Oh, I mean, these two issues are separate. What's happening, the Dalai Lama is saying and what is happening in Tibet. I don't know why he is now saying China. I don't know why he said this in last few weeks. But yes, when we look at the data, or what I have looked at, I can't say much about, beyond what Dalai Lama or his team is thinking about China, or what Chinese leadership is thinking. And that is why I mentioned one lacuna, because we do not know or have access to what leadership is thinking about. So we only have indications. For I mentioned 4 or 5 reasons why we should think the appointment of cadres has a larger plan, and that is why the changing ethnic composition of leadership at all levels matters. Why we should think about, because this should be part of larger strategy. But we do not have much information, or not at all not much information from leadership, what they are thinking. So what we have is output, what we are seeing, what they want to tell the world. From there, we are just trying to get a sense of what they are doing.
Sir, as of now, we do not have any more questions in the chat box.
So yeah, thank you, Aishwarya. Can there be more questions from the floor? Like anybody interested to ask any clarifications, you are most welcome now. Anyone? Yeah. Devendra, now I do have some questions still. Like since nobody is asking, I'll take this prerogative once again. I hope they get recharged once again, like with other questions that they are thinking about. So you said one of the observations that you made is spiritualization of the party. Like when you use this term spiritualization of the party, can you substantiate that, and why so? Why a party as an atheist party, you said, is trying to really look or dwell or depend why China or the Communist Party is doing that? Can you substantiate that? And on tables and that, can you wanted you to comment on this with regard to aid to cadre, aid to Tibet program. So you said many non-Hans are coming to Tibet. But who are these non-Hans actually? Where are they coming from? Are they coming from, you said that they have been trained in some, non-Tar minority areas like Yunnan and also in some places of different coastal regions. But which, if you could see, like, because you said that you're looking into the biographies of these cadres also. So where do they, what is their nativity? Where are they coming from? Are they coming from Liaoning? Are they coming from Shanghai? Or are they coming from Han, but from Guangxi, Zhuang Autonomous Region, or Ningxia, or so to say, even from the northeast province of China? Yeah.
Oh, can you please clarify what you mean? Han cadres or non-Han cadres as part of Tibet?
Yeah, non-Han cadres coming from where to Tibet?
No, now non-Han cadres are not coming to Tibet from as part of aid to Tibet. There are non-Han Tibetan and Hui Mongol cadres from non-Tar areas, and even all these provinces are coming. They are being appointed, and some of them are, especially in. If you look at the cadres in UFWD in Tar, which I actually forgot to mention, is most of these cadres at the prefecture level, county level, are Tibetan cadres or Mongols in UFWD. And this I infer that, and many of these cadres are not from Tar. There are a substantial number of people who are not Han, but they are Tibetan Mongols or Hui, and they work in UFWD. They come from non-Tar areas, non-Tar Tibetan areas. And I surmise that since they know the language, they know the culture, at the local level, since the local level units of UFWD interact with people on day-to-day basis, they need people who can communicate better. So at the provincial level, you see more number of Han ethnic cadres heading the UFWD units. And about the spiritualization of politics, this is not my term. As I said, it's mentioned by Cloud RPA, but it actually captures well what party is doing. One, from 2008, after 2008 onwards, the more number of monk leaders are being co-opted within the party hierarchy, although they are mostly in NPC, People's Congress at provincial level or at the national level. So you see most of these abbots of major monasteries and the monks who have what China says they have role in reincarnation issue, they are part of CPCC. And you see many of these monks, even in the non-Tibetan prefectures and counties, all these monastery heads are part of CPCC and NPCs. So that is the term spiritualization of politics means that an atheist party which is playing fine religious lines, catering to what's happening, because you see now the way they are orchestrating the visits of Panchen Lama, and even these Kal Chakra, many of these lectures are being now reportedly cancelled. But the way they are allowed, some monks are allowed to organize these lectures, some are not. So those who do not toe the party line, they do not get permission. Others are being co-opted, and they are also being financially and other politically promoted. So that is what it means. That party, which is an atheist party, playing the fine lines of religious life within Tar. And that is why I say it is not just, the simple narrative that, it wants to repress Tibetan life and culture, etc. That's not correct. What's happening is both coercion and the co-option. And if we look at the party's narratives about Tibetan culture, conservation of heritage, we see reports after reports every day about how parties is sponsoring institutions which are helping conserve the older scripts, etc. And they celebrate the festivals, etc. But within the party fold. That is why I call just one line that the what party wants to do is bring everything into the party's ideological and organization code. And this is something I can also substantiate from what party is thinking about traditional culture as such all over from my PhD. That's what I worked in PhD thesis, that what party wants to do is that when party the traditional culture started flourishing in 1980s, the dilemma was what to do with it. So from 1980s, 89, after that, the party started bringing in everything within the party fold. And that is why you see the changing narratives. And something similar is also there. So party presents itself as champion of Tibetan culture, which is part of Chinese culture. That is what they say. Yeah. So that is what I mean when I say spiritualization of politics. And this is a term which I think is very useful term used by Cloud RP. So I have used in the draft which you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because as an academic, you have to really contextualize these categories, conceptual categories. Yeah, that can be for your future research. However, I think you might have other question as well, Aishwarya. Yes.
Yes, sir. We have a question in the chat box. Amit Vig asks, what is the ethnic composition of the PAP and its recruitment base, county or prefecture level?
I do not really have answer to this because I haven't looked at the PAP's composition, and also I have tried to see some of the leaders of PAP, which is Tibet, Corp of PAP and PLA, but we only have very less information, and that only about the top leadership of PAP. But I can tell you that there is less number of Tibetan cadres who are elected to deputies in the party committee at the provincial level. But in other levels, let's say now we have 49 deputies which were elected to select the current party committee at the provincial level. But we do not have, I did not find data on how many deputies from PLA were there in 2011, 12 and 16, 17. So I really can't tell you this. And the question about recruitment base, I'm really not sure.
Are there any other questions from the floor?
Anand has raised hand.
Yeah, is there a raised hand? Yeah, I can't see.
Yeah, I can see. Anand, go on.
Yes, sir. Anand P. Krishnan is raising his hands.
Okay, thank you, Devendra. In fact, I thought my quota of questions was over, but then Beam's extra points seems to have lighted up something. So I thought I'll ask anyway. As always, wonderful presentation, which I said earlier. But this spiritualization of politics, I mean, yes, it's correct. I mean, there is a lot more parties involvement, and of course, Xi Jinping makes everything about the party. East, west, north, south. The party penetrates and permeates all aspects of life and society in China. But having said that, this is not something new. If I'm not wrong, I mean, let us just go back to veneration of Confucius itself. I mean, this has been there even in the previous era of Hu Jintao. I mean, Confucius getting revived. I mean, as all opposed to the period now, which looks like completely in a different zone altogether, completely unconnected in the Mao era. Xi Jinping is being, or Confucius is getting venerated. There is a lot more celebrations. The party itself is incentivizing a lot of them. There is a lot more visits, tourism, all planned to Confucius' birthplace, his tomb, where his final resting place. A lot more conferences, a lot more events, which was there even before the new era, so as to speak. So if that is the case, then how is it different, if there is a difference at all? Or if you're seeing this as a continuum, then what are there any features in the previous era which are not there in the new era? Or are these new era having a completely different strategic motive altogether? So how do you compare and contrast these two, the era pre-Xi Jinping and in the new era? That would be very insightful, because the spiritualization of politics and also this entire notion of co-option and coercion, which you have very correctly pointed out and which you have elaborated as well, is also reflected in a lot of other areas. I mean, for example, in labor relations, for instance, the party has always maintained this velvet glove and iron fist. I mean, there has also been the carrot and there's also been the stick. I mean, there is some amount of concessions showing its responsiveness, but there is also the complete coercive apparatus or repressive apparatus, in favor call, in fact, to curb down labor protests. So, I mean, this is again not, I think, very unique to only Tibet or ethnic politics, but also is visible in other areas and other problems of which might seem to be unsettling the stability discourse of the party, if you could say that. So I was basically interested in how would you compare and contrast between the two eras, or from previous period to what Xi Jinping has come up since Xi Jinping has been at the helm, as far as the spiritualization of the party, as you call or as you refer to Lord RP here.
Okay, so certainly it has not, happened overnight. It is the difference is that there is a consolidation of earlier tendencies. So, for example, you have the law for recognition of living Buddhas being passed in 2006-7. Then what happened in 2008? These events are, I think, in some ways are the the key to understand the changes which are happening. And that is why in terms of leadership appointments, etc., I have basically looked at what happened after 2012-11, because this is the time when the local level committees were elected. But yes, it is not overnight. It has happened over a period of time, with 2008 protest being the key stage from which the party, it seems like they have changed. But we should be very careful in looking at this, because the issue of reincarnation started in early 90s. And if we have to interpret why party, they introduced these committees, management committees, and the legalization of reincarnation issue in the early 2000s or mid 2000s. So we have to look at this issue as in continuum, and Xi Jinping's period as consolidation, because now we have a lot more focus on the religious life and how party trades the religious lines and communicates with people. It's not black and white approach to whether now they are focusing on how local traditions, the different issues about religion, theology, etc. There are a lot more resources, and people are being. So now you see how party is granting degrees to people through these Buddhist association and colleges. Then you have media reports after reports talking about how debates happen, this, that, very fine points about the religious. So in that sense, in one line, it's about consolidation of the earlier tendencies, as well as lot more focus and resources being spent on how party communicates and deals with the question of religion. Yeah, I hope this makes sense.
Yeah,
To some level. Yeah, but again, I maybe if not entirely convincing, but definitely it does make some sense. At least maybe this new era ever since 2012 seems to be completely cut off from the previous era. So that much is something. I mean, it's I think valid for a lot of other areas under Xi. But yeah, there is some amount of point which you definitely raised that makes sense.
So we still have Aishwarya. Do we have some time still?
Yes, sir, but we do not have questions as of now.
Anyone? Anybody who have a question to Devendra? If not, again, Devendra, I'd like you again, like 2 or 3 queries that still want, because I also work on the same aspects of doing research. So if I may ask, like as a graduate, nobody's asking that, therefore I'm asking you. With regard to the recruitment policies, because the regulations on cadre recruitments or promotions released by the organization department of the CPC every now and then, and post especially 2012, you see substantial, tweaks in the party constitution, disciplinary inspection commission regulations. So how does that, when you are doing a research on Tibet cadre and cadres on Tibet, how do you see that? Are there any, parallels, or are there similarities, or are they, because I'm asking this question from the, as you said, spiritualization of the party, because religion, as you said, is a cadre shouldn't follow a religion. But whether if he or she is Tibetan or somebody from Ningxia or somebody from Xinjiang, how would that be? Yeah, that's my short, question.
No, I think, when I mention spiritualization of politics, it is about Tibetan ethnic representation in CPCC, not other institutions, because that is where more religious leaders or monks are elected and represented. So that is different. And that's one aspect of spiritualization. Another is what I answered to Anand, that party is spending a lot of resources and on religious thing. So, but then then if we look at the cadre appointments and their background, what is happening? Those who are being elected at prefecture level, either they start from very low level in Tibet or Tibetan areas, or they are appointed, if a cadre is appointed from outside Tibet, he or she will be at county level, not below, because they already have some experience working in other, their parent organization or province. So that is one thing. So when we look at the prefecture level cadres, they are 2-3 sources. One is it's a majority of cadres who work in Tibet, who have worked in Tibet, and they are appointed. But they usually, when they come till the prefecture level, they become, they reach or are near retirement age. That is why you see most of the Tibetan cadres who rise from the very low, till the time they reach provincial level, they reach retirement age, right? Similar thing happens with Han cadres who start at the very low level. So three things. One is A2 Tibet cadres get appointed at the mid level in provincial, in the province, in the region, right? Another thing is those cadres who are parachuted from other provinces, they are also appointed and then cadres with special skills, they are very young in a sense, and they are appointed at prefecture level, means that by the time they reach the retirement age, they can serve at the national level also. And the point is, many of these people and Han cadres, because in Han population in Tibet is very less. And that's one of the points that I wanted to mention about the deputies to People's Congress at our level. So where are these cadres who are coming from? That is why I say, even though the population of Han population is not increasing in Tibet, more deputies are getting elected, which means there is some, we have to look at how things, quotas are assigned, the actual elections at the prefecture level, and these deputies are elected. Why is that, more Han cadres, despite their population being less, are elected as deputies to the, the provincial level? And I'm sure it must be happening, say similar things must be happening in some measure at the from the county level to prefecture level also.
Yeah, you still have one question. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
about
sir. Okay.
why is there a decline in Tibetan representation of Tibetan ethnic cadre? Is it a way of showing disagreement with it? It's basically what I have talked about is that it's about the party's plans to promote and recruit cadres. So why it is declining? There are different reasons. One is it's part of broad strategy whereby it wants to bring more ethnic cadres who might be, thought of as more competent and obviously loyal to the party. Yeah.
So, Ashwara, if you don't have questions, can we close the session now?
Yes, sir. I would like your permission to conclude the session.
Yeah, I'll just give a closing remark and you can, yeah. Devendra, thank you once again for a splendid presentation. Like some of the takeaways from your presentation is definitely the role of recruitment policies being, how is it being practiced in Tibet and how is it distinct? And also you're not only looking from the macro, from the national, but also from below to top. And at the same time, we could also understand some of the takeaways is that how, the state, the administrative, organ of the state has really trying to change the nature of the state and society in China. And definitely more so in, ethnic regions such as Tibet. And the role of, authoritarian state, the very party's presence, trying to willing to able to, fill with what you said is coercive power to bring in high, moderate, high to modernist design of like, technological progress and scientific development that you see. And the appointment of the cadres, aid to Tibet cadres being appointed in Tibet definitely shows these, trends. And the last one is actually what the party is called for, never forgetting the original missions of the party, that is Puang Chushin, actually resonates still in your presentation. That means the basic tool of the three magic weapons of the Communist Party, that is the party, the People's Army, party as the CPC as an organization, the PLA, and the last, not the least, the United Work Front Department, that is CPCC. And today in your presentation, we could see all these three things, even in new era, being resoundingly feeling or making its presence here. Thank you. I hope you will, in future present this and develop into an academic piece and looking into really engaging with some of these theoretical literature on recruitments and minority policies and ethnic policies in Tibet and so to say in China. Thank you once again. And
thank you, Dr. Bhim and everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Ashwara, you can, the floor is yours now.
Thank you, sir. With this, we would wrap the session. We thank Dr. Devendra Kumar and Dr. Bhim B. Subba for giving us their precious time and holding an engaging conversation. The video recording of today's discussion will be available on the ICS YouTube platform. We would also like to welcome everyone for the next Wednesday seminar. We at the ICS conduct seminars every Wednesday. Information related to the same will be available on the ICS website and our social media. You can also follow our Twitter and subscribe to our newsletters for regular updates. Thank you.